And our local airport has been experiencing some emergency landings lately. I'll tell you how they've been handling it and what you can expect if you're in an emergency landing in just a few minutes.
The summer travel season is almost here, and Wilmington International Airport is getting ready.
That includes actually preparing for emergency landings. You don't like to think about that kind of thing, but they're always prepared. Carolina in the Morning's Victoria Huggins live at the airport. Victoria, put this in perspective for us. How often do we see these type of landings there?
Good morning. Well, Wilmington International Airport has actually had 2 emergency landings over the past 2 months, and in both of those instances they have been medical emergency landings. Just this past weekend, a flight from Ecuador heading to New York City landed in ILM. You'll see this in these pictures, due to a medical emergency. Officials say that the airport is in a constant state of preparation for any type of emergency. A full-time staff of emergency responders are always on duty just in case they are needed. But how do these emergency landings affect your travel plans? ILM Deputy Director Gary Broughton says that the flight departures and arrivals are usually able to continue as planned at ILM, even in an emergency landing situation.
Given 2 runways, depending on the nature of the incident, one runway should always be open and therefore does not affect our scheduled airline service. The only option, or the only alternative that would be, or exception to that, would be the fact that, depending on the nature, if there's a mechanical issue that in the middle of the field that closes both our runways, obviously we would have to clear that in as expeditious a time as possible.
Mr. Broughton also shared with me that it takes effective communication between the air traffic control tower as well as the ground personnel to make sure that all of the needs of those involved in an emergency landing flight are accommodated. And when we come back at 6, I'm going to actually be speaking with the operations manager of the airport to find out just how they take these emergency situations and learn from them to better prepare for the next one should it occur. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Victoria. We're checking in.
Well, Bill, the first thing that happens in an emergency landing situation at ILM Airport, officials tell me, is communication. The air traffic control tower right over there receives that information, and then they share it with the ground personnel so that they can properly prepare for the specific needs of that emergency flight. Officials say that the air traffic control tower learns the nature, whether it's mechanical or medical, to properly provide for that specific emergency. They then notify other personnel and the airport's full-time staff of emergency responders, and they are called into action. Officials also say that security is a top priority when an emergency landing occurs. To ensure public safety, security escorts accompany all of the employees and emergency staff that meet the flight and its passengers upon landing. After the situation is handled and contained, ILM Airport Operations Manager Gary Taylor says that personnel meet to go over what they did well and what they can improve upon should an emergency landing happen once again.
After every incident, we have a hot wash to ensure that everything went smooth, if there's anything that we can improve on, and we take all of those experiences and use it towards the next instance.
Define hot wash.
And the hot wash is just a brief overview of what happened during that event with all the responders involved.
An interesting fact that I actually learned from Mr. Taylor is that ILM takes into consideration whether the flight is foreign or domestic so that they can tailor the needs specific to the passengers that are coming in from that emergency landing. Back to you, Gannon.
All right, Victoria, good stuff. 6:03, time now.